Hi, my name is Sam Richardson, and this is the Silent Mother Project with me, Sam Richardson. This has been a long time coming, and if I'm being honest, I am freaking the heck out right now. When I first started doing podcasting a few years ago, I just sat down with my microphone and started talking about my life and sharing my story. I would do it from my bedroom closet. I did it one time in my garage as I was actively having a garage sale, just like picking up the microphone and recording my story in between doing things. And now it has gotten to the point that everything has blown up that I am shaking to sit down at this microphone once again. When I first started podcasting, I didn't really think many people are listening. When I first started doing this, it was a lot easier because I didn't really think a lot of people would pay attention to some 30-year-old mom talking about her life being a stay-at-home mom and form so many opinions about my personal life and stories that it would blow up to what it was. I feel like I'm talking in circles at this point, and I feel like that's another reason why I've been so nervous to sit down and record it, because there's so many pieces and parts, and I want to be able to tell the entire story and not leave anything out, because I know people are going to be like, well, what about this? And then what does that mean? And it's like, everything is connected. Trust me. And I don't want to leave any little details out because I truly do have OCD and it hurts. But I am not perfect. And I started doing this to show other people that perfect doesn't even exist. I'm going to start. I did not expect the tears to come so quickly, but it's okay to cry. It's okay to release this because this has been a long time coming and a long time building. This emotional release, talking again. And there are so many pieces and parts and details that it is physically hard for me to not tell you everything. That sometimes the details don't matter, and what matters is the truth that you know it to be. And you have to just be okay with other people lying about you. When I started telling my story, I never expected anybody would actually listen. I'm just a stay-at-home mom sharing my life stories. Yeah, I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and I figured we'd always deal with some hate comments here and there, but what it has blown up into, I legitimately just get frozen when I start to go there because it's scary. It's scary to go again. It's a lot easier to use your voice when you don't think anyone's listening. If this is your first time tuning in, or you have recently stumbled upon me in whatever insane situation I have found myself in recently, welcome. After this episode, I think you will have a lot better understanding of who I am and why I do what I do. If you have been here for a while and you are a glory hole, I am so sorry if I just blew your fucking mind. Oh, so sorry. I cussed too. Woo. I am so sorry if I just blew your mind by saying glory hole. But there is an entire story that goes along with that, and it is not at all what you think it is. But if you have been here a while, please bear with me because you will hear things that you've heard before, but hopefully it's just a little refresher, and I think you will hear some things that you've been waiting to get answers on. My name is Sam Richardson. Yes, my full first name is Samantha, but I just feel like it's too fancy for me. I feel like Samantha Richardson is, I don't know. That doesn't feel like who I am. So I just go by Sam. I am currently, as of this recording, May 2026, 36 years old. I am a stay-at-home mom of 3 children. My oldest will be 15 in July. My son will be 12 next week, and my youngest is 7.5. I am married to an amazing man. His name is Kyle. He is virally known as the Spreadsheet King. And even though Kyle doesn't make the biggest appearance on my platform, he is the reason why I feel so comfortable being who I am. He is the most supportive partner I could have ever asked for. Currently, he is dealing with the children and making dinner after working all day, so I can sit up here in my cozy little space and record this. So I am a content creator and influencer. I never really planned on becoming an influencer, and I don't really want to be an influencer in the sense of what an influencer is known to be. I don't know if that made sense, but it made sense in my brain. I'm not here to influence you on products you don't need. I do not like capitalism. Growing up, I was a goody two-shoes little Catholic girl. I went to a very small Byzantine Catholic school. We wore uniforms. The girls were not even allowed to wear pants. That's how strict they were. But even then, I always had to have my little sense of rebellion, or not even so rebellion, just uniqueness, setting myself apart. And we were allowed to wear sweaters. And there wasn't a specific dress code on cardigans or sweaters. So my grandma would always give me her giant oversized cardigans, and that was like my thing. And it still kind of is. Not kind of, it is. But even though we were Catholic, my mom was a single mom who had me at the age of 21, and I was pretty much a one-night stand baby. And I do not say this to place any judgment on my parents. At the time my dad had met my mom, he had already had a son who was 9 months old, and he wasn't looking for anything. My mom got pregnant. My dad didn't want anything to do with me, but my mom really, really liked him. So even though, according to my birth certificate, I have no father, my mom named me after him. And I do not mean that she gave me his surname. She gave me her surname, but she gave me his first name. He is also Sam. And you may think that's not too bad, even though this is a man who wouldn't even admit that I was his. The 9-month-old son, my older half-brother, was also named after him, Sam. But his mom also gave him her surname. So all three of us shared the same first name and different last names. And that's probably where my trauma started. Not to mention that I look exactly like that man. I did start seeing my dad when I was 4 years old every other weekend. And at the same time, my older brother would visit as well. My mom did end up getting married to my stepdad, who he had his own 2 children, my stepbrother and stepsister. And they ended up having 2 more children, my younger brothers, who are 5 and almost 11 years younger than I am. I have a lot of siblings, but I am the only one made from my mom and my father. Truly one of a kind. I also have a gene mutation called heterochromia, and that means that my eyes are different colors. My right eye is green and my left eye is brown. And to be clear, my mom and stepdad were the Catholics. My father was not religious whatsoever. And when my mom let me start seeing him, she essentially was sending me to a stranger's house every other weekend. So I was exposed to a lot of things that I should not have been exposed to during my childhood. When I was 13, my mom divorced my stepdad, and I was the eldest daughter of a single mother. And if you are an eldest daughter of a single mother, you know exactly how that feels. So I had to grow up really fast. And it wasn't really until I was an adult and had children of my own that I realized how traumatic and toxic so many things were. And even though I was raised Catholic, I was always taught to accept people for who they were, at least by my grandparents and my mom. My grandparents are my saving grace. I would not have made it through the stuff I made it through without my grandparents. But other family members, let's just say they're very conservative. So being the goody two-shoes Catholic girl that I was, I actually wanted to be a nun at one point in my childhood because I wanted to help people. I have always wanted to just help people. I was being taught by nuns, and they were teaching us what Jesus really stood for. Loving and accepting everybody, because we are all creations of the world, of God, of the universe, of whatever it is that you want to believe in. We are all creations from the same place, and we all deserve to have the respect and the freedom to live the lives that make us happy. as long as we're not hurting anyone. Sorry, not sorry. Someone loving someone of the same gender is not hurting anyone. To be clear, I am not a member of the LGBTQ community in the sense that I am not gay. I am a cis, straight, white female married to a cis, straight, white male. But I have never felt included anywhere else other than when I'm amongst people of the LGBTQ community. So even though I was Catholic, I have always been open and accepting of everyone from diverse backgrounds. Growing up Catholic in a very small town in Ohio, even though I did have hopes of going off to New York City and being on Broadway, and I did make it into the American Music and Dramatic Academy in New York City, I never actually could see myself following that dream because everybody else around me and the type of role models I had were all getting married and having babies very young. And that was pretty much ingrained in me that, yeah, you can go to college and follow your dreams or do what you want, but really to be successful in life is finding a husband and having a family. So I wanted three things in life. I wanted to help people, I wanted to be a mother, and I wanted to be a creator, entertainer, speaker, talker, writer. I loved to write, and I have been writing nonstop since I was a child. And that is really the base and the foundation of who I am. I'm a caregiver and a storyteller, and I'm a dreamer. So when I graduated high school in 2007, at the age of 17, I auditioned for the American Music and Dramatic Academy in New York City and was accepted. However, following my acceptance, I found out I was pregnant at 18, and I was no longer dating the baby's father. And even though I was still living at home and scared shitless and realizing that my dreams of New York City were no more, I was still happy and a piece of me excited because I always knew I was meant to be a mom. Looking back now at the age of 36, I want to cry. 18 is so young and such a baby. But after everything I had already lived through and experienced at that point, I was such an adult. But I wasn't. I was a child. When I went in for my 20-week ultrasound, my doctor noticed that something didn't look quite right with her heart. So she sent me to a specialist, and my baby was diagnosed with pulmonary atresia. Basically, it means the pulmonary valve doesn't form. I had the option then to abort if I wanted. Having very strong faith, of course, I chose not to abort and thought it doesn't matter. I'm going to love my baby no matter what. So on February 3rd, 2009, when I was 19 years old, my firstborn daughter, Cadence Michelle Shamrock, was born via emergency C-section because when I was in labor, we found out that I wasn't dilating because my own body is screwed up and I have like a tipped uterus and it just won't work. But that when I was in active labor, it was causing distress on her. And since we already knew she was going to have a heart defect, they made the decision to take me for an emergency C-section. Immediately when she was born, she was taken to an adjoining hospital room to where she was given a ventilator and feeding tube. She underwent her first open heart surgery when she was 3 days old. And even though pulmonary atresia actually has like a 97% rate of survival, after her first heart surgery, they realized that she had a couple other things going on. Like there was some stuff that was backwards and she had the biggest sinusoids that they had ever seen. And this legitimately happened. I'm not making this up. They said her case was so rare. They had me sign permission or whatever that her case could be put in medical books to help teach about this specific situation. At 4 weeks old, she was life flighted from the Akron Children's Hospital to the Cleveland Clinic because Akron Children's didn't know what else to do other than put her on the heart transplant list, but they don't do heart transplants, and the Cleveland Clinic does. So she was life flighted. And once we got there, they actually had a different plan where they did an angioplasty and saved her from having to go on the transplant list. But let me tell you, there is no way of ever describing what it is like to have to hope for a heart for your child, because that means that you have to put out there into the universe that you want somebody else's child to be taken from them so that yours can live. And I don't think I have ever heard anybody talk about that. Why don't we talk about that? The angioplasty was successful and she started to improve. However, at about 6.5 weeks old, she contracted sepsis, something that she had already beat. She already had sepsis once and survived it, but she got it for a second time, and she did not survive it. The morning of March 20th, 2009, I walked in to her hospital room, and I immediately could tell the vibe was off. Cadence was so sick that she had a nurse assigned in her room 24/7. When you're in the PICU or the intensive care unit, there is a nurse usually assigned to a couple patients, and they kind of stay outside in the hallway. But for Cadence, she was so sick that she had a nurse only assigned to her, and they stayed right there in the room with her 24/7. Basically, what happened that day is they told me she was septic again, and all of her lab reports had come back, and that there was nothing else they could do. She was on every type of medication they could give her, on the highest dose of what they could give her, and her organs were failing at that point. Believe me, I tried to donate her organs. I really wanted to be able to help someone else that way, but she was so sick that I wasn't able to donate anything. So the sweet, beautiful soul that made me a mother took her last breath at 3:25 a.m. on March 21st, 2009. Another thing we don't talk about is what it's like to have a death certificate for your child and a box of everything you have left of them. So at 19 years old, I had just lost my daughter and felt completely lost myself. A year later, when I was 20, I decided to re-audition for AMDA in New York City. And I made it once again. However, at this audition process, I was sat next to a really cute guy. You know, I'm from a small town in Ohio, and they don't make boys like that here. We hit it off and exchanged contact information. He was from Connecticut. I'm from Ohio. We both were accepted and started a texting relationship to become friends before we ran off to New York City. I went out to Connecticut to visit him prior, and one thing led to another, and I became pregnant with my second child. So for the second time, I once again could not go to New York City because I was pregnant. That relationship turned into something that I did not think it was in the beginning, as a lot of them do. But our daughter was born in July of 2011, my sweet Evangeline. When she was 5 months old, there was a domestic violence incident in which jury's still out on if it was his fist or the bottle that he threw that collided with my jaw and almost broke it. Following that court proceeding and some drama, my 5-month-old and I came back home to Ohio. That all happened in Connecticut.
where I had no one. So at the age of 22, I was living with my mom, working as a state-tested nurse's aide. I worked in nursing homes and I did home health. I was a single mom living with my mom. I had Medicaid and food stamps while working my ass off and trying to figure out how to pay for daycare. Thankfully, I was able to get Title 20. And here's one thing they don't tell you. When you go to apply for any type of welfare or assistance, if you are a single parent, they will automatically try to go after the other parent for child support. However, just because there is a child support order established does not mean that you get your child support. There was a child support order established back since my daughter was 9 months old. She is now almost 15, and since he lives in a different state, never seen a penny. I was still desperate to find my daughter a safe and secure family environment and home environment that I never had. So my mom talked me into going onto the free dating website called Plenty of Fish. And after a few dates, I met Kyle, who is 6 years older than me, had his shit together, had a house, had a college degree, and best of all, he had the heart and compassion to raise a child that wasn't biologically his. We started dating when Evangeline was 1, and that is the only father she has ever known. She does know her history. I believe in being open and honest with my children, especially about who they are and where they come from. In May of 2014, Kyle and I ended up having our first son, Graham. We got married in April of 2016, just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. In 2017, I suffered a miscarriage. It's what's known as a blighted ovum. It is where you do become pregnant. Your egg is fertilized. However, a baby never actually develops. In 2018, I became pregnant with twins. However, we lost the first one very early on, which is a lot more common than most people even realize. We had our final sweet little baby girl, Blair, in November of 2018. Now, I worked as a medical assistant all the way up until I had Graham. So Evangeline was in daycare for the first couple years of her life. And after we had Graham, we realized that it cost more to put 2 kids in daycare than what I brought home. Thankfully, my husband is a structural engineer. He works his ass off and he makes a decent wage that he is able to support our family's lifestyle of having a stay-at-home mom. So I have been a stay-at-home mom since I was 24 years old. So once I became a stay-at-home mom, I felt very isolated, as many stay-at-home parents would know that. As a creative person, I struggled with not having a creative outlet. And this is back when blogging was very popular. So I decided to start my own blog to where I would just write about my own life. At this time, I was also just diagnosed at the age of 26 with ADHD and OCD and PTSD. So I created a blog about my life, being diagnosed with mental illness, losing a child, being a stay-at-home mom, learning how to be a mom after knowing what it's like to lose a child, and also your basic stay-at-home mom stuff, like here's some fun dinner recipes. And I called my blog Living Richardson. I thought it was a fun play on the words living rich, and really, what does that mean to everybody? You know, success is not one size fits all. And since my last name was Richardson, and this was about me living my life, I thought it was fun. The Living Richardson all started as a blog. Then in 2020, when the pandemic hit, I found TikTok. TikTok was a lot of fun back then. I never thought I would say I'd miss anything about the pandemic, but I miss pandemic TikTok. That was back when we were all just super authentic, posting whatever we wanted. TikTok Shop wasn't even a freaking thing then. We were a family and we truly built a community on this social media app that nobody was doing on Instagram or Facebook. Facebook and Instagram was so fake and so perfect, and that was not what TikTok was. So I started doing funny motherhood and marriage related content. And as I grew a nice following from doing so, I became more open with sharing my own personal stories. And I just grew and grew from there. 2021, we purchased what was a dream home for us at the time, in a perfect, beautiful suburban neighborhood where everyone thought they were actually living in Beverly Hills and not Green, Ohio. If you're watching the video portion of this and you just saw me flash this yellow thing, I have my son's giant butter squishy because I knew how anxious doing this would make me, and I've been sitting here squeezing it off to the side this whole time. And this is where the story really takes a turn. There's so many details, and I'm not going to address them all, at least not in this episode, because we've already been here forever, and we've still got a little ways to go. But I'm going to do my best to hit the highlights. So after being an established and successful TikTok content creator, where I was receiving brand deals and creating UGC content, we move into our new home in a new town, new school district, new neighbors who were our age, with 2 children around the ages of our children. The mom was a school teacher, so she had her summers off, and as a stay-at-home mom, I had my summer off. So when we first moved, right in April, at the beginning of summer, pretty much, we really hit it off. The kids would constantly play all day, and her and I would hang out. Now, her husband worked from home, and when we first met him, he told us that he worked in medical sales. No, he works in food distribution, and he manages the food sales for a medical corporation or hospital or something. But when he first met me, he introduced himself as working in medical sales. After getting close and developing a friendship, and I mean like such a friendship that we smoked pot together. I do smoke at the ganja. Did I say that right? I don't know. I have CPTSD and anxiety, and it has been the most amazing, essential tool for me. Okay? No judgment. If you're going to be here, you're in a judgment-free zone. Some nights we would put our kids to bed and then meet each other on the back patio and light up. We were smoke buddies. Now I'm a stay-at-home mom, home. Neighbor works from home. He's home. My husband's gone at work. One day I look out my back window and my neighbor is staking about 6 feet into our property. Now, if I was who I am now, back then, I would have immediately walked out there and confronted him. Back then, I was still goody two-shoes Sam, who was afraid of making anyone mad at her or upsetting anybody. So I stood there drinking my coffee, watching as my neighbor violated my property. Very long story short, he was attempting to steal our land because he wanted access to our water basin. So, here we go. We had a water basin in our side yard, and it comes with an easement. And in case you didn't know what an easement is, it means that if there is any issue with the drain, because the basin was tied into the city drain underground at the road on the street, if there was any issue and the city needed to come have access to our basin, there was that easement, like 10 foot surrounding the basin to where the city workers were allowed to come access that. And if we had like any landscaping within that easement, they were not responsible for it if, they ruined the landscaping. That's what an easement is, okay? It does not mean that any Tom, Dick, and Harry, the public, is just able to come walk in your yard because there's an easement. No. So he tried to claim that anybody could have access to this basin because it has an easement. And the development we lived in, the very bottom of this hill, we had horrible flooding. His property wasn't originally even sold off with the rest of the parcels to do that development 40 years ago because his property was the actual swamp. It literally used to be an apple orchard. And our basin was the basin for the apple orchard. He wanted to tie in some kind of pipe
to our basin to help like get the water flow off his yard or something. And my husband told him that he can't access it without a permission because it is ours, not his, not the city's. But also, being a structural engineer and doing this kind of stuff for a living, that basin was not equipped to hold any other pipes coming into it, any other new water flow. He wanted access to our basin. He tried multiple ways to get it, including just taking it, and we told him no. Now remember, we have a lot of water running through our yard too. The water would come in from the back uphill part of the property, run on top of our soil, through our yard, go into the basin, drain down into the street. My husband, with approval from the city that he didn't actually need, but he did email them and tell them what was happening, and they were like, yeah, you don't even need our approval. Go ahead and do what you need to do. He installed another drain at the back of the property for some of the water to then go into that drain, to go into the basin, then go to the street. It did not alter the water flowing to the basin by adding any excess water from any other entry points other than where the water was already coming from. What my husband installed simply gave the already flowing water an underground tunnel, so it wasn't sitting directly on top of our yard, making our pool float away. Another route underground to get to that basin. No alterations with extra water flow or anything was done. The neighbor took this as his opportunity and claimed that my husband altered the basin in a way now that their basement was flooding. Let's just keep in mind that I was very close with the wife. I've been in their home. I was in their basement. I saw the pre-existing water damage and water stain spots on the wall prior to all of these allegations. So he claims my husband altered the drain and it was now causing water damage to their basement. And he wanted access to this drain and he called the city to our property without our permission and was about to camera the drain. And it was months and months after him just trying to take what was not his. Him overstepping our boundaries and our privacy and our property. He wanted to camera the drain to see if the drain was bad or something. So when I looked outside my window one morning and saw 3 city workers with my neighbor standing in my yard over top of my basin, I walked outside and I told them that they had to leave. They had no permission. My neighbor was not happy and he's like, well, it's the city. You can't tell the city what to do. And the city workers were like, well, whose property is this? And he said, it's my property. It's my basin. And they looked at my neighbor and they're like, is this hers? This is not your property? And he's like, whoa, there's an easement though. And they're like, dude, that's not how an easement works. And they immediately retreated. So because I stood up to him and I was right, that just, everything spiraled from there. So they install a fence on the property line, which was perfectly fine by us. Then we notice a Ring camera installed at the back corner on the fence on the opposite side of the yard to where the basin was, that had the capability of viewing the entire area of my backyard, had the capability of seeing the windows to the back of my home, to which all 3 of our bathrooms were, my child's bedroom, our swimming pool, everywhere my 3 children played, where my maturing 12-year-old daughter swam, ran around in her bathing suit. It's really hard not to get into the details of everything and because everyone's like, well, wait, why? You're crazy. You should have done this. You should have done that. Oh, there's so much stuff we did and didn't do, and but there is really no short way to tell this story. So they put this camera up. We tried to talk to them and tell them we're not okay with it. They literally refuse us to speak to us. So we put up a lattice, this wooden lattice, to block the viewpoint of the camera, to which they then moved the camera past the barrier. So we moved the barrier again. So they moved the camera again. So we moved the barrier again. And they moved the camera for the 3rd time. So at this point, 5 weeks later, we decide to go to the police, the Summit County Sheriff's, it's the jurisdiction we lived in, and ask if there was anything that could be done
but that we did not want them to interfere if there was nothing that they could do because we didn't want to escalate things. And they said legally it's a gray area since he's considering it surveillance, but since you've made the complaint, we will go talk to them and tell them, that you have a problem with it. And we're like, okay, sure. So they go over there, they tell them we have a problem with it. The neighbors claim that the camera was installed to watch the basin because they believe that we were altering the water flow. So they installed the camera to be able to observe the water flow through our backyard into our basin after they put up a fence blocking their own view anyway. So right there, they admitted that the sole purpose for that camera was to watch our property. That's not okay. And there are no laws to protect you from that when it is the person that lives there. It would not be okay for anybody else to come stand out there with a camera recording the private areas of the backside of your home. But if your neighbor claims it's surveillance, they can put a camera anywhere they want. So after 5 weeks of trying to block this camera, we were at our wits' end. We couldn't do anything. I had the platform I had. I sat down and I recorded a video. I never said their name, never showed their faces, never even really showed their property. I just showed the camera on the fence and I said, is there any legal way we could block this, or what can we physically do to get this camera not to see us? And overnight, that video blew up. Online gossip articles ran it, and I became known as the Basin Lady. Then just a short few days later, I was sent a demand letter claiming that because of my video that I posted just a few days ago with no names or identifying information or anything, that that video cost my neighbor $1.6 million contract in his little ATM business he ran out of his garage that he literally had just established. Even if that was the truth, I didn't defame anyone. I didn't lie. I just told the truth of the Basin story. And then we were served with actual lawsuit paperwork there were 10 different claims, mostly related to defamation and violation of privacy and stuff, all for what I was talking about, making videos on my TikTok and just telling the story of what was going on. And again, never saying their names, only ever referring to them as my neighbors. And as bad as it is to just go through a civil legal lawsuit, there's no experience like being sued by the people living right next door to you who are actively harassing you and your children every single day. They would record us with their actual phones from the windows of their home, from their own property, and they'd call the cops on us, we'd call the cops on them, just so many things back and forth, and the cops were just fed up with us and they wouldn't do anything. And because it was already taken to civil lawsuit, they just kept saying, oh, well, it's in a civil lawsuit, just take it to the judge, and they just washed their hands of it. After an extremely traumatic 2-year legal battle with our next door neighbors, everything was dismissed and done, and we decided to move. We moved on our own accord because, first of all, there was no way we were going to be living next to people like that and ever feel safe in our home. But secondly, there was no way we could ever live under the Summit County Sheriff's jurisdiction. So we moved away from our neighbors, yes, but we also moved away to be under a different jurisdiction. Since moving, we have tried to put things behind us, but I have become well known in what I do. I got involved in a local missing persons turned murdered case in Canton last year, and it's still heartbreaking that the police said there's supposed to be answers and there hasn't been. So without going into too much of that situation right now and trying to bring up any trauma for any family, I implore you to please explore on your own the case of Ryan J.J. Godby out of Canton, Ohio, and demand questions from the police. During the lawsuit and all of that craziness, I did start the podcast. People were loving my short form storytelling that I was posting on TikTok, that I had a lot of requests to create an actual podcast. So in 2022, I created the Living Richardson podcast, where you can still find all episodes under this podcast, and you can learn a lot more about my life in detail. But then after going through all of the trauma and moving and learning everything I've learned and gaining the platform I gained, across all of my social media platforms, I have a reach of over 600,000 people. After gaining this large platform, I wanted to use it for good. I was already so open with talking about my mental health and realistic motherhood and marriage. And because I became so open speaking on what it was like to be a mom with mental health issues, to be a mom after losing one of my children, the more open I was, the more people would message me with their own stories. And I wanted to give everybody else's stories and voices a platform. So I created the Silent Mother podcast. And I was running 2 separate podcasts, my personal Living Richardson podcast and the Silent Mother podcast. And the Silent Mother podcast was more exclusively for parents who had gone through traumatic experiences, and how we just can advocate that nobody's parenting journey is ever what they think it's going to be. And that as alone and isolated as we feel, we actually aren't. And there are a lot more people that we can connect with that we don't realize. So I had already interviewed 4 amazing women and featured their stories. And don't worry, I will refeature them again. But that was what the Silent Mother was started as. Then I realized that we needed not only an online community, but an actual in-person community. I have 3 kids in school. As a stay-at-home mom, I make it my mission to volunteer as much as I can and be there not only for my kids, but for other kids, and for being there for other moms who aren't able to be there because they have to work. Stay-at-home parents are the ones who are in the community working with everybody else's children. And I got to know some of these kids and their home situations and their backgrounds. And for some of them, our home became a safe space. And them following me even on my platform and listening to my podcast and my stories and what I went through as a teenager and stuff became a safe space. And then I had parents who were going through their own issues with their own kids, or who had LGBTQ kids and couldn't find a safe space, but they knew that like I might know of a safe space. I realized that there was a need for an in-person community. Something that like I wanted to essentially create a church type community without the religious aspect of it. Being extremely inclusive, no matter your gender, your age, your color. I wanted to create a safe space completely free of judgment. So I established the Silent Mother Project as a nonprofit. And I was running it by myself, funding it with money I make as Living Richardson, which Living Richardson is an actual digital media company, registered LLC. As I started running the nonprofit, I had some feedback from people's opinions that I thought very highly of, that I basically felt that I needed to separate myself, my true authentic self as Living Richardson, and Samantha Richardson, CEO of a nonprofit. And that this was this character, this perfect character that I was supposed to be playing because she wanted to make a difference and help people. So you can only do that if you're prim and proper and perfect. And then I had to, once again, go back to masking my true authentic self like I was used to doing my entire childhood. My very best friends, who I thought really understood and accepted me, didn't. And I fell into a very deep hole. And then my kids were struggling with some extreme bullying situations. And I closed the nonprofit, stopped recording the podcast, and didn't really know what to do. But I kept talking on Living Richardson because that's who I am and that's what I've always done. And I share the real, the authentic, what you're going to get. And I really did some soul searching and tried to figure out what I wanted to do. I am also in this new season of being a stay-at-home mom where all three of my kids are in school. I was used to having a child with me at all times. And now we're in this new routine of it was easier to be home and clean and cook. And now with three busy kids, I'm barely here. I can't keep up with everything. And I've had to learn and adapt in this changing, life is always changing. And so I was trying to figure out where my passion was, where my purpose was, what to do going forward. And then our wonderful administration sent ICE into Minnesota and killed Renee Good and Alex Preddy. And I am not a person that can sit back and watch things happen and not help. I don't care what you think about me, but I know why I care deeply. And I know what's at the heart of why I do what I do. But being well known in my area, I was afraid of starting the Silent Mother Project back up on my own. And I didn't really have anybody that I could trust. So I looked for other organizations in my area that I could join at the actual community level and contribute the skills that I already have from running the Silent Mother Project and living Richardson to this organization, should they need it. But I really was just looking to join a community. So I joined this local group called Stark Indivisible. They were a local chapter of the National Indivisible organization. And shortly after joining, the head admin said that they were looking for some new admins and really needed help with social media. So I was like, oh my gosh. So I saw that as the universe saying, here you go. You wanted a community, and now they're asking for something that you actually know how to do, that is your skill. Go for it. So I had an interview, and I was hired on as an admin for free. It was all volunteer work. At the same time, another beautiful 23-year-old stay-at-home mom became an admin. And shortly after, another 37-year-old beautiful social worker / therapist, mom of a 15-year-old, joined as an admin. We helped plan the No Kings rally. I emceed the No Kings rally and gave a speech. We held an in-person meeting. We planned a May Day rally. Through being an admin with this organization, some things were brought to my attention from people outside the organization, warning me to keep my eyes open. But I'm a person who I like to see things for myself. And I started to see things for myself. And I had already promoted this organization on my platform and told people I was becoming an admin for it. Used my face, my name, my voice, multiple ways for this. After putting a lot of time and energy and heart into this organization, I realized it was not exactly what I thought it was, and I no longer wanted to be an administrator for it. And so I felt that I had gotten close with the two younger new admins, Addy and Lauren. And so I reached out to them and I just said, hey guys, I really don't want to do this because I really love working with you guys and think we just had this amazing relationship. But I need to step down from Stark Indivisible. I think after the May Day rally, it's not what I thought it was. And they actually were having the exact same feelings and opinions that I was. They responded with they were wanting to step down too. So basically we all wanted to step down, but we wanted to stay connected together because we really work well together. And some other things transpired behind the scenes with the other administrators of Stark Indivisible. But long story short, we told them in a Zoom call that we would be stepping down as administrators and that we were going to be doing our own thing. I explained to Lauren and Addy about the Silent Mother Project. After getting to know Addy and Lauren, it is clear that they shared the exact same vision and passion for why I started the Silent Mother Project. And they actually have the drive and the passion and the resources to help me do what I always wanted to do with it. So during a Zoom call, we told the other Stark Indivisible administrators that we thanked them for what they taught us and the experience, and that we were actually going to be stepping down as administrators and starting our own group, but we would still love to be involved in the community of Stark Indivisible and collaborate and work together. And on that call, they questioned us a lot as to why we came to this decision, and we explained it the best we could. And it seems that feelings were hurt and people felt that our reasoning for wanting not to be involved with that group anymore were personal attacks, when it was just, you asked for our reasoning and this is why we're going to step down, because we're not okay with certain words that are comfortable being said in admin group chats. Following us stepping down, one of the admins went on a little rant in the Facebook group, and still being members of this community. And after him questioning our reasoning of leaving, the three of us made public comments as to, this is one of the reasons why we stepped down, because we encourage the admins to take a look at what they're really doing, and this is the type of behavior that's not okay, and certain things that we try to address just really wasn't considered, and it's more of a regime versus a collaboration effort. And things kind of blew up a little bit from there in that group. And I would just like to publicly say I am no longer connected to the organization Stark and Divisible, and I no way support them anymore. After working on the administration team for a few months, my values do not align with their values. And I believe that they are misrepresenting themselves to the public and their community. So all of this has led us to this point right here. And I actually have to wrap this up because I'm about to go jump on a Silent Mother Project Zoom call with Lauren and Addy and some other collaborations we're working on. This is where everything is coming full circle. This is where I am no longer keeping Living Richardson separate from the Silent Mother Project. I am the Silent Mother Project, but so are you. So many of us know what it's like to be silenced. So many of us know what it's like to be told we don't have a voice. And I am here to tell you, after many life experiences, you do have a voice, and it matters. And if you are scared of using your voice and you don't know where to start, I welcome you to use mine. So here on this podcast, The Silent Mother Project with Sam Richardson, you will hear some stories of my own mixed in with other people's personal stories. You'll get to meet Lauren and Addy. You'll love them both. But Lauren and I, we're pretty much the same person. And then Addy is our secretary, middle woman. She's like, all right, guys, we got to keep you on track. And just like, she's our note girl. She's our organizer. I'm the voice and I have the platform. Lauren is the social worker with the resources. And Addy is this amazing organizational glue that holds us all together. So you will get to know them very well on this podcast. And we are going to be bringing you so many episodes full of resources and true, authentic stories and what's really happening in our communities, in our country. We are here to answer questions and help and just stop the judgment. We know that life can be really fucked up. It is our mission to make sure no one ever feels that way. We are organizing food drives, clothing drives, workshops, community get-togethers. Already in the books, we have a community Zoom call scheduled for Friday, May 15th, where we invite any one of our Silent Mother Project community to jump on and meet us and share if they want to. A very relaxed, non-formal space. Then on Sunday, May 17th at 11 a.m., we'll be meeting at Diamond Community Park in North Canton for a park cleanup where we will have supplies provided to help give back to our community and clean up our parks, but also just be together. So even if you are physically not able to come out and help clean the park, just come be with us and meet us and be part of this community. We will have snacks and water, but please feel free to bring a lunch if you would like to. And we will be at Stark Pride in June. We've also started a new initiative called Neighbors in Need, where we work with people in the community who are struggling and may need a little help. And our first Neighbor in Need needs are up on our website, thesilentmotherproject.com, or on our Facebook page. We have an Amazon gift list that you can get specifically for her family. And we also have a Silent Mother Project donation page that you can find through the website. And anything donated through the Silent Mother Project goes back into helping our initiatives like the Neighbor in Need or funding future get-togethers. And I feel like I need to make this clear right now. Even though the Silent Mother Project was previously a nonprofit, it is no longer a nonprofit. It is an entity of Living Richardson. Living Richardson funds the Silent Mother Project, along with any of your gracious donations. So it is time to wrap this episode up, I think. I hope some of this made sense. I hope you were able to follow it. I'm sure there's a lot more questions you have, and I welcome them. Feel free to visit our website, again, thesilentmotherproject.com. You can hear all the past episodes of the Living Richardson podcast. You can read my, Lauren, and Addy's bio, learn more about the three of us. You will find an event page there so you can stay connected to all of our upcoming events. We do also have a Silent Mother Project shirt. It is the logo with the mouth and the lotus flower and says the Silent Mother Project on it. And you can also contact us through the website, find us on social media. You can follow me on social media at Living Richardson or by finding Sam Richardson. I am the white woman Sam Richardson, not the talented African-American male actor Sam Richardson. You can also email us at contact@thesilentmotherproject.com. contact@thesilentmotherproject.com. I feel like there's stuff that I definitely forgot to say, and that's okay, because I'm not going anywhere, and this microphone's not going anywhere, and hopefully you're not going anywhere either. And if this resonated with you, or if you think that somebody could benefit from what we're doing, like the Neighbor in Need initiative, please send them our way. Apply on our website to be a neighbor in need, or just contact us if you want to share your story. Oh, I guess I never really wrapped in where Glory Hole came from. So, going back to Glory Hole, when the whole basin situation was happening and the camera was up, and I'm very theatrical, I decided if he was going to have a camera up on my basin, I was going to give him a show. So I received a comment that told me I should tap dance on the basin because I'm a former dance teacher and choreographer. I also forgot to mention that. So I tapped dance on my basin and posted it on TikTok. And from there, the basin videos went viral and grew to where people would comment with different movie scenes that I would do. Like I did the Buffalo Bill, or is it Buffalo Bill or Buffalo Bob? I don't know, whatever one it goes, it puts the lotion on the skin or else it gets the hose again. Impressions are not my forte. I recreated Harry Potter. We did Stranger Things. The kids started making videos with me. It was our way of fighting back. If you were going to have a camera up and watch my property, I was going to give you a show. During the lawsuit, I was gagged. I was gagged from using the hashtag basin and birth of basin and glory hole. Oh my God. So after these videos became a viral sensation, we decided that we needed a name for our following, and Glory Holes was not my idea. It was a comment, and please forgive me. I cannot remember who suggested it, but I saw Glory Hole because the basin was a glorious hole, and I named her Bertha Basin because I'm a weirdo that names all inanimate objects. Bertha Basin's following became known as the Glory Holes, and I virally became known as Queen of the Glory Holes. So yes, if you look up hashtag Queen of the Glory Holes, you will find me. Never in a million years did I think a goody two-shoes Catholic girl, stay-at-home mom, would one day virally be known as Queen of the Glory Holes. But then again, life really never does go the way you expect it to, does it? Okay, I am down to 5 minutes now. I love you guys. New people, old people, not like old age-wise, like, you know what I mean. All of you for being here, who have stayed here, who are going to stay here. I know I am not everyone's cup of tea. I know I am loud, and I am too much, and I am dramatic, and I am passionate, and I feel a lot, and I cry a lot. But this is what you get. And if you don't like me and what I do, good news. There's thousands of other podcasters and content creators, influencers that would appreciate you giving them a follow. So for me, Addy and Lauren, the team at the Silent Mother Project, we welcome you. Thank you so much for being here.